If you're looking at higher education these days, you've got a huge choice: the classic on-campus experience or the incredible flexibility of an online degree. But here's the big question, right? Does that flexibility come at a cost to the actual quality of the education you get? It's a debate with massive stakes. And today, we're going to dig into some research that pretty much flips what we all thought we knew on its head. So this is it. This is the core question. Does where you learn, whether you're in a lecture hall or your own living room, actually change how well you learn? For years, the answer has mostly been, guesswork and just assumptions. But we're about to look at a study that gives us a real, data-driven, and frankly, a very surprising answer. We all know the stereotypes, right? Online class means you can learn from anywhere, anytime, but man, you've got to be your own motivator. In-person class gives you that structure and face-to-face time, but you're chained to a schedule. These are the classic trade-offs we've just kind of accepted as the way things are. But to get past what people think, you need cold, hard data. And that is exactly what a 2025 study gave us. Researchers designed a really clever experiment to zero in on the one thing that matters: the learning format itself. And listen, this was no small-scale thing. The study was legit, tracking 414 undergraduate students over more than a dozen different school terms. Now here's the key. To make it a totally fair fight, every single one of those students took the exact same course: Managing Workforce Diversity. We're talking same book, same material, same everything. And this is the most brilliant part of the whole setup. All 414 students, whether they were online or on campus, had the very same professor. They got the same lectures, the same assignments, the same exams. This completely isolated the one thing they wanted to test: the format. The playing field was as level as it gets. Okay, so with this perfectly controlled experiment, who do you think came out on top? The students in the structured, traditional classroom, or the self-motivated learners online? The answer? It's probably not what you're expecting. All right, here it is, the first big reveal from the data. The on-campus students did great. They averaged almost an 88. But look at the online group. They cleared a 91 on average. Now that is not a small bump. That is a statistically significant difference. The numbers are telling us something that totally goes against the grain. So let's be super clear here. It's not just that the online students did okay or that they were, equivalent. They actually performed statistically better than the students in the physical classroom. This study suggested the online format wasn't a compromise at all. In this case, it was actually more effective. But wait, the story doesn't end there. Not even close. The researchers decided to dig deeper, and they sliced the data in a whole new way, this time by gender. And what they found adds this fascinating and really critical new layer to the whole picture. And what they saw was another really clear pattern. Looking at everybody together, both online and on campus, female students, as a group, scored higher on average. And again, this wasn't a fluke. The difference was statistically significant. This discovery made the researchers pause and ask a much deeper question. Was something about the course itself creating this gap? And this is where the whole investigation gets really interesting. The researchers started to wonder if they'd accidentally stumbled onto something called adverse impact, basically an unintentional disadvantage that was baked right into the course design. So what in the world is adverse impact? Well, it's a legal and HR idea that fits perfectly here. It's when a totally neutral practice, like a specific mix of assignments for a course, ends up hurting one group more than another, even if you didn't mean for it to. There's even a test for it, called the 4/5 rule. Basically, one group's pass rate should be at least 80% of the top group's rate. If it's not, you might have a problem. So, the researchers put this to the test. First, they looked at just the final exam, which is a pretty straightforward test of knowledge. And the result? The male pass rate was almost 94% of the female rate, way, way above that 80% line. This is so important because it means the exam itself was fair. It wasn't the problem. But here's the twist. When they looked at the total course grade, which included all the other stuff like participation, projects, everything, the male student's pass rate dropped to just 78.9% of the female rate. And that number falls below the 80% threshold. That's statistical proof of an adverse impact. It's just like the study's author, Dr. Mujdaba, said himself. It was the mix of all the different assignments, not the final exam, that created this unintended gap. It wasn't that the male students were learning less. It was that the way their total performance was measured was putting them at a disadvantage. So, what do we do with all of this information? Well, the real takeaway isn't about declaring one format a winner or saying one group of students is better than another. Not at all. The real lesson here is about thinking harder about how we design courses to be fair and effective for everybody.
And this is the point, right here. We started by asking if online is as good as in person. That's a question about equivalency. But this study shows us there's a much more important goal, equity. How do we make sure our teaching methods give every single student an equal shot at showing what they know, no matter who they are?
Now, the cool part is, the study doesn't just point out the problem and leave it there, it actually offers a path forward. The author proposes this 3-tier learning system. The idea is to mix lectures with visual tools and lots of practical discussion. By doing that, you give students a bunch of different ways to learn and to demonstrate what they've learned. It makes it way less likely that one type of assignment will hold an entire group back.
And that really leaves us with the ultimate question. As education keeps changing, the real challenge for every school and every teacher is to move beyond just debating formats. The real goal is to focus on building learning experiences that are truly equitable, making sure every single student gets the chance to shine.